Good morning all, Jo here again. How are you doing? I thought I'd just pop in, have a little coffee break with you. So if you want to put me on pause while you make yourself a coffee, maybe grab a biscuit. It's 10:25 here, Monday morning in the UK. Very wet Cheshire. It's absolutely throwing it down. I've been to the post office this morning and I got soaked. But anyway, so I'm back here now, coffee in hand, in time to have a catch up and a chat with you. Hope you had a lovely weekend. It was a busy one here. It was an online class on Saturday. Good fun, great fun, but busy. Today, I've got this little design to share with you. I thought we'd have a bit of a play with just some inks, obviously a stencil and some Lavinia stamps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get started. I notice a few ladies have said you're beginners, and I do think we almost put ourselves under pressure if we think we're a beginner. We think there's so much to learn, but just almost little words of encouragement for you. If any of us who've been crafting for however long learn a new technique, we're a beginner at that technique. So, you know, we're all beginners really. And I don't know about you, I mean, I just love learning new techniques. I just feel I just want to learn as much as I can. And really, this crafting business, like it really, do you know what? It's just about having fun. And what I love is to start with a white piece of card, have my tools, my inks around me, and then make something like this. And for me, that's what it's all about, and that's what I love. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by making the background. Various ways of putting your ink on. Now, this design today is a lovely quick one. So if you were going to need, you could make these backgrounds up and then stamp them up whenever you needed. So for me, one of the quickest ways to add ink, I'm going to move that out of the way, to your card is brayer. Now, as you know, anybody who follows me, Billy Brayer, when I was a newbie, I went to a workshop and I couldn't get the hang of this brayer and I did it wrong and the tutor shouted at me and I just wanted the floor to open up. Oh, it taught me so much about what not to do. And I had years of having a real phobia about him. So I called him Billy one day and thought, do you know what, he's not going to beat me. And so I do think it's important to, if you're worried about something, just take the pressure off, give it a silly name. It suddenly becomes not frightening and, you know, have a go with it. So what we're going to do, we're going to, normally with Billy Brayer, it's easier to add ink this way down, because once you put ink on the roller, once it's gone round the circumference, your ink will be less. So you will get a darker patch and a lighter patch. So the majority of people you see demonstrate will work on a piece of card like this because that distance is less. But just to challenge us, we're going to choose one which will well take off the full ink off this. But do you know what? We're just making a background. So I want to show you how, honestly, it is so easy. And I don't know why I spent years being so scared of it. I'm using Distress Oxide ink and I've just gone for a couple of my favourite colours. Again, this is just the background. So I've gone for Stormy Sky and I'm inking him up. I'm working on my craft mat, as I always do. And if you look, where's the camera? I'm still learning, you can tell. Can you see it's not even? And that, if you went straight onto your card, that would give you lines. So what you do, got a non-stick craft mat here. I'm just almost going to blend on there. Now, can you see if I hold this? Can you see how that's much better? You can actually see that the ink's more even. So we're going to go along there and then onto our card. And we are just making a background. I'm going to pick some of that ink up from there and then back onto my card. I only want to go about halfway down. I want it a little bit deeper than that. So this is a speedball brayer that I'm using. It's a soft rubber roller and it does pick up impressions and patterns nicely. And the other thing is to just, it's a light and it's almost a flick. So as you come down, flick up, flick back. Don't press too heavy, nice and light. And if I just pick up a bit of that ink there. Yeah, now that'll do for me, just for that bit. Now I'm going to do some green at the bottom. So what I would recommend, I'm just cleaning the brayer, just using a wet wipe, and I'm going to clean my mat. Again, I could spritz this and add some ink and make another background with it, but obviously on here I think it's more important just to get on with the design and show you. So I'm just going to clean that. Now I've gone for crushed olive. It's sort of a nice green, but it's almost a yellowy green. Now if you notice, when I ink up the brayer, I only ink up this half. That's all I need to ink up. So I'll bring my card back. Remember, blend it on my mat first. And then, and again, I only want a little bit in the background here. It's almost just to take the whiteness of the card away. And as I say, it's a great way of practicing your brayer in this. So again, blend it on your mat. That's important. And then flick, flick, backwards and forwards. And I'm not going to go over here. I'm just leaving that bit quite light in the middle. So again, I'm happy with that. So I'll just mop that up. Now, one little trick, if you, we're going to use a stencil now in the background. If you wanted, you could flick, because we've used a dye-based ink that's water reactive, you could flick this with water from your fan brush, and you would have a lovely background. And that's one way. If you weren't happy with your brayering, flick some water on it, and honestly, it makes a great background. But what I thought we'd do, what I'm creating now, is this in the background, and I just want it quite subtle. And what we're going to do is we're going to use a stencil for that. So Lavinia now have started making stencils, which is brilliant for me because I do love stencils. And this one, if you joined me last week, I used the seed heads stamps, and this is the stencil. So it's really lovely that they match. So what I've decided I want to do is I want to put them in the background, but I want a colour to almost contrast, but not to be too in your face. So I'm going for purple, and this is a wilted violet. And I'm just going to place my stencil over the top like that. I'm not going to fasten it down. Having trouble with my words this morning. That's Monday morning for you. You see, I've not actually had my coffee yet. I have mentioned coffee time to you, ladies and gentlemen, but I've not actually had mine yet, so that's obviously what I need. Now, if you look, I'm not putting too much ink on. I want it quite subtle. Now, always with a stencil, if you want to see how you're doing, I hold it down with my left hand and I would flip it up like this. Now, you can leave the top like that. What I like to do, though, is just bring a little bit of the blue, the Stormy Sky that I used, and almost just blend that top. I almost want to blend it in. So I'm just going over where the blue and the purple meet. And if I bring that back down, can you see? So I've got a little bit of stenciling in the blue. So I'm going to lift that off, and I'm going to, don't want to try and get a line where it joins. So I'm almost going to bring some of the pattern over there. Again, hold it down. Now I'm using a smoothie for this, just because I find it easier. With the stencil, do go the way the stencil's formed, if you're with me. So I'm blending that way. I wouldn't come down this way because I may catch these and bend them up. So that's something just to be aware of with your stencils, especially if they're delicate ones. But the smoothies are great for this. And as I say, not too much ink. I just literally dab it on once. And also I want to use the ink that's on the stencil, almost clean the stencil. Make sure you don't go over here, that would give me a line. So I'm trying to remember to stop about here. So once again, I've got the purple at the top, but I just want to subtly add a little bit of the blue. So I'm not going to come down very far. And again, before I lift my stencil up, have a look, and I'm happy with that. Now for me, for a background, I could leave that and then decide what I was going to do with it at a later date. So if you want to have fun and make some backgrounds, it's a lovely, lovely thing to do. But because I want to almost make a meadow and stamp, I've got some beautiful silhouette stamps that I just want to use Lavinia stamps. So I'm going to add a moon mask. Now again, this is just a piece of acetate, 6.5 centimetres. You can cut yours whatever size you want. If you've got a die cut some. They are see-through. I always say this, so I put some gold Posca pen on mine. You could dab it with some gesso, just so that when it's on your mat, you've more chance of seeing it. Now, my suggestion here, I think if you put it in the centre of your work, it's almost too central, and for me, I'm not keen on it. So I'm going to offset mine here. On my original, I think I've put it that side, but for this one, we'll just go here, just change it up a bit. Now, again, what I'm going to do, always again, just dab in once in your ink and then dab it off on the acetate and flick as you go round. If you went straight with your ink and started off the edge, you may have too much ink if you've loaded up and it can spoil it. And honestly, that's one trick. Once you've done it, you always learn then to always dab off on here. And you're not wasting that ink because you can pick that ink up, look, and flick. Now again, I don't want to lift that off. I want to see what it's like. So I'm going to hold it with this hand and just peer. Now I like that, but I think I'm all for blending colours. So I'm thinking if I just add a little bit of purple onto that. And again, I've only dabbed the smoothie on my ink once. And I'm going all the way around. But I just think the purple tone will almost warm it up a little bit. And just blend it in better with that background, with having the purple on the stencil. Yes. So if I take that off, I'm much happier with that. I like that effect. So for me, this background is building up beautifully. I mean, again, if you wanted to stamp one of the fairies on here, that would be lovely. And then a little bit of foliage around. You could even just put a sentiment and some foliage around the edge. That would be beautiful too. What I'm going to do is I'm going to edge mine now before I do my stamping, just because for me it's when I teach workshops, it's a better way to do it, because sometimes once you do your stamping, you can smudge your stamping when you start doing your blending. So that's the only reason I do it this way. And I'm just going to have a piece of tissue so I don't put dirty finger marks on my work. Now again, I'm just going to use a smoothie for this, and I always start in the corners. So circular motions, and I'm using black just to frame my work. So pick that ink up off the mat, and again load up on the corner, because you always want the corners darker. So it's just circular motions. I'm not coming on in too far. I don't want this to overpower. I just want it to frame my work. I mean, you could mat and layer on black card, but for me, I just like I say, it's a bit daft really, I just like to start with that piece of white card and see if I can produce a finished article. I still get a thrill that I can do it. I hope you do too. I hope you have a go at these. So I'm just going to just think a little bit more at the bottom, just to almost ground it a bit more. So again, I'm just going to pick this ink up off my mat. Might as well. Don't want to waste it. A bit more in the corners. Let's just darken those. A bit more in the two top corners, and I think we're done. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So again, I'll just clean this space. Just dry it. I am one of those, as you can tell, I do like to get into good techniques, good ways. It's just I find if you're working on a dirty space, you've more chance of getting ink on your hand and then on your work. Now we're going to do some stamping, so I'm just going to bring in a magazine with some copy paper on, just because for me it acts as a stamping mat. I suppose it saves me buying a stamping mat, doesn't it? So sorry those companies that sell stamping mats, but we've got our own here. Now if I bring the finished one in, there's 2 or 3 different Lavinia stamps that I wanted to use. And I do love the way, a couple of silhouettes, but then I love the delicacy of this one. And I just think they match beautifully. When you are creating something like this sort of meadow, please try and remember to get it to look natural. So you don't want all your flowers in a line, regimented. And I know some people do struggle with trying to make something look, what's the word? Not symmetrical, random. I couldn't think, I told you I was having difficulty with my words today. Oh my goodness. I think next week I'll have to get a professional in for you. So one of the first stamps I'm going to use is this Wildflower stamp. And again, remember, when you've got the acetate, you can actually put the acetate on to give you an idea where to stamp. And I always think when we've got this area, our moon or our spotlight, whatever you're using it for, look how beautiful that looks. Just highlighting that with this in the background. So I put that on my block, and I'm actually going to use VersaFine Clair ink, but this one's the Monarch. I thought because we've got purple here, I'd go for a purple. Now for me, I just find it better. Sorry, so I just want to turn it on the side. Again, sorry, it's just a quirk. I just find it easier stamping that way. I'm going to ink my stamp up. Get rid of that off the block. And I'm going to do my first one here, just because I almost want this as a focal. Now it's a silhouette, so again, don't be in any rush to lift your stamp off. Give it a good few seconds just to soak into that paper. I mean, we've already got ink on here, haven't we? So, you know, don't rush it. That's beautiful. Now, what I'm thinking is, again, if I bring this in, I like to just angle a couple, just to make it look, you know how wildflowers sometimes grow in clumps? So, nice light tapping, and I'm just going to go for a bit of a clump here with these wildflowers. You know, stamps like this are so useful. I mean, just think if you had to make a sympathy card or a get well card. I know they're not easy to make, especially sympathy card. You could do this, but just keep to, say, grey or blue, just a pale blue, and then just the stamping in black. You wouldn't need much more, a little with sympathy, and it would be beautiful, wouldn't it? Yeah. So we've got 3 there. So what I'm going to do is just put an odd one down here. Now I need to be mindful, I don't want it the same height, because that would just look too symmetrical. And then let's put one over here. I'm just going to angle that one slightly. It's quite funny, no matter how many of these I do, you know, no 2 are ever going to be the same. I like that. So we'll leave that there. I can always add some more. I'm going to put it to one side. I don't want it to look too fussy, too pizza-ish. I want it to try and make it look, if I turn it that way, so that's what we've got so far. So next I'm thinking, let's bring the poppy in. So this is the Wild Poppies. Now again, this is this one. And I'm thinking that'll just look nice in the couple of spaces. And I think we'll go for black for this, because I do want some black stamping. So we'll ink that one up, and let's just put our poppies here. And again, I'm just going to give them just time to soak in. Yeah. And then let's have, just want to wipe, I've just caught the edge. And like I say, I'm one of them, if I get ink on the edge, it'll transfer onto my design. Now let's just have them at that angle a little. Again, make sure they're not the same height. I know I keep saying it, but honestly, you don't want, I do see some designs where they just, I mean, if it's a design where you want a modern, fresh, and you want them to look specifically in a row, like soldiers, that's fine. But if you're looking for that meadow, that sort of meadowy feel, you know, you really don't want them, you want them to look like the natural, don't you? So we'll just put one more here, and I think if I just come in there, so that's what we've got so far. Now my plan is, I have a plan, would you believe? I have this lovely, and this is one of my favourite, my workshop ladies know I've been using it a lot recently. It's called Field Grass, and look how delicate that is. Sorry, can you see it on the white? She says. It's just beautiful. So I'm thinking this is going to look lovely, almost wispy in between. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this in a green, Shady Lane, which, as you know, in my head is Shady Lady. So Shady Lady's coming out. And such a delicate stamp, this. And I'm thinking just, and you can over stamp. Now you can, if you want, obviously first generation, use second generation, and then look how it gives you that depth. So we'll have another one here. Look at that, beautiful. And again, this is such a lovely filler because it does give that meadow. And what's nice about it, you can actually have it, look, peeping up. Let's just pop a little bit there. And I'm thinking even here. See, look how that's building up. Now, I love that. I slightly think here, when I did my original, I felt it needed something here. Now, I could add more of the grass like this. But again, I felt I wanted it a little bit darker, almost to ground it more. So what I did on my original is I got one of the seed heads and I've put it on a small block because I just want these little top couple. And what I did was, went into my black ink. Now for me, if I just show you, if I just bring a couple of these in, let's have a look there. Can you see the difference? For me, this area looks fuller and grounded without being too much. But I'm only going to probably have a couple more, but I think it just finishes it off. So again, don't think you have to use the whole of the stamp. I'm thinking, if we put that way, oh, that would look nice if we just do a little, see that nice little clump and a clump there. Now that looks almost too, we've got a little space there. That was not random enough. That looks better. So if I just get a clean piece and turn it round just to make it easy for you to see. So can you see what we've got so far? So I've got to be honest, I think that looks lovely. Now again, you could leave it like that and you could stamp the sentiment just once. Now I stamped it a few times. I've got this, again, a lovely sentiment, and for me it's perfect for at the minute. It says, a time to reflect on one's life and hold what is close to our heart. And I think at the minute, with everything that's going on, you know, friends, family, online friends, you know, leaving nice comments, just talking to people, doing nice things, going to see your neighbour, leaving some flowers. If you've got flowers in your garden, leave your neighbour some flowers, just because I just think, you know, all these things are so important. So this is my little message to everybody that's watching this. And I do think, you know, at the minute, if we can reflect, and let's hold everything close to our hearts. Now, I do think, you know, if I stamp that in black there, it would look beautiful. And in fact, I might do that. On the original, I stamped and used my Mica Minerals, and I think I could possibly do both. Well, there's nothing like changing my mind, is there? Where's my stamp? Although I do like it in the minerals. No, let's go with the original plant because I wanted to show you the minerals. So, Mica Minerals, and yes, I do talk to myself like this at home. Lavinia have brought out these Mica Minerals, and they're absolutely beautiful. Just a real lovely mica powder. If I take the lid off, this one's copper that we're going to use. So lots of uses. You can mix them with water and paint with them. You can, so I'm just going to take my sentiment and I'm going to stamp it. In fact, I'm just going to stamp it here. Now I've stamped it 3 times on my original, but I'm just going to stamp it once and just see. So again, Versamark ink, so it's your sticky ink pad. Take a paintbrush, dip it in your minerals, and then just brush over. It's like the magic. Did you ever have magic painting when you were little? You used to have books. I love doing this for children. I've done it for my grandchildren where I stamp. Elliot's really into dinosaurs, so I stamp dinosaurs in the Versamark so you can't see it on a piece of card, and then I say to him, look, Grandma's going to paint with this paintbrush, look. And then obviously all of a sudden the dinosaurs appear. Oh, and he thinks Grandma's so clever. Bless. Now the lovely thing about this mica powder, if I just brush it, just buff it up with some kitchen roll. Now I'm hoping if I stand, can you see that? And it is fixed. It's absolutely beautiful. It's got a fixative. So what I'm going to do is a couple of things. I'm going to get my white Posca pen and I'm just going to add a couple of highlights on these. Just a couple. I don't want to overdo it. Now you know the white highlights, just especially on the silhouettes, just brings in that. Then white charcoal pencil, which I put somewhere safe, didn't I? So just a little bit of white charcoal around the moon, just to accentuate that. And then just to finish off, what I'm going to do, I didn't do this on the original, but I'm going to just pop a little bit of the mica on my mat and then put the lid on. Really important, I always teach to put the lid straight back on, because you know what, if you don't, you're going to knock it over, because that Murphy's Law. And then I'm going to add a little bit of water. And I'm just going to, now I could paint with this, so I could if I wanted, but I'm just actually going to add a few little splats around, so it'll bring the copper in, and they almost look like they could be little butterflies flying. Put a couple across there, and then yeah, I've just little bit more water. I just want to add a few down here. Again, I don't want to overdo it. No pizzas. It's just very subtle in between. Yeah. So again, let's wipe that up and then we don't put our... But if I bring that up, can you see? Now, what I would do, this one, I've matted and layered. What I would do, if I use the back of it, I could show, well, if I just put it on top, what I would do is I would actually put a few little flicks of the copper on here just to tie the whole thing together. So they're my 2 designs. So if I move those out of the way, so that's the one we aimed to do, and that's the one we did do. Now I've got an idea what I want to do with this as well. So we've got it here to put on a card, and I've got an idea what I'm going to make this tomorrow. So if you want to pop back tomorrow, coffee time again, get your coffee and biscuit ready, and I'll show you what we're going to turn this into. Don't worry, it'll be a quick one tomorrow. Nice little chat, a nice little catch up. So I hope you have a nice day. Still raining here, so I'm going to go for my coffee now. I still get quite nervous doing these, so promise myself a coffee when I've finished. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I hope you have a go at these, and please let me know how you get on. All right, take care, everybody. Love and hugs. Bye for now.